Hey everybody, PKFT1 here. Once again, it's been a long time. Finally making our grand return. I feel like we've been saying this for the past few months, where it's like, oh, we're finally back after a month. Regardless, we're here today to talk about the Sonic sequel. We wanted to do a first non-spoiler discussion, kind of our review and thoughts, and then we're going to jump into a spoiler discussion after that. So before we get started, we have a bigger group than usual when it comes to discussions, but we have Blur with us.
Hi.
And then we have Okoboji.
Hey.
And then we have Nix as well.
Hello.
So, why don't you guys tell us, first of all, if you guys don't know, Blur is a very big Sonic aficionado. She's run a very popular Sonic blog for a long time. And I want to get her immediate thoughts on the film as well as Okoboji because they went together to see it.
Well, okay. Blur, do you want to lead on with that?
Sure. So we got early access to it, actually. We were just buying tickets and we saw there was early access, so we were like, why not? So we actually saw it on the 6th. So we saw it on Wednesday. So our theater, there was not a lot of people. There was like us and maybe like 3 other couples, and we were all spread out there across the theater. So none of us were like sitting by each other. But you could tell, like, everyone there had to have been, like, a Sonic fan, because it's like, who else would do that?
Hey.
I also, like, I went into the movie with much higher expectations than the first one. So when the first one came out, there was, like, this whole thing where I was not excited for that movie. I thought it was going to be terrible. I thought it was going to be stupid. And then I remember watching it, and I knew PK was going to watch it later, and the whole time, because I knew we were going to talk to each other about our thoughts, and the whole time I was like, oh no, I like this movie. I was like, what am I going to say if he's like, oh yeah, it was stupid, and then I'd be like, yeah, it was really dumb.
Yeah, well, that was the same thing with me, was especially knowing you were a Sonic fan, I didn't know how you were going to react to the first movie when it came out, and Nix and I decided to go, kind of last second.
I was extremely reluctant because I didn't know anything about Sonic. I'd never played any of the games. We didn't have them growing up, but I knew he was a big Sonic fan and wanted to see it, so I'm like, fine, we're out, may as well go and see it. And I thought I was gonna hate it, and I thought it was gonna be the worst movie I've ever seen, and I was wrong.
And we all, so I guess suffice to say, we all really liked the first movie.
And so I definitely had much higher expectations, because I was like, okay, it looks like they're going for more, like, trying to follow more of the games. So I was like, I hope that they do it right. I know the game's stories themselves don't always do it right. I'm fully aware of that.
Oh, man.
I've
got
you just
some
have
things.
to keep it simple, and you can do good. You can make it a good story if you keep it simple and don't overcomplicate it. And I think that they did a good job. So I walked out pretty happy. Like, I don't know if it, like, exceeded my expectations like the first one did, but my expectations for the first movie were, like, in the dirt, so I couldn't go any lower. So this one, I feel like it just met my expectations.
What about you, Okoboji?
Well, that was the thing, though. Like, I feel like this movie knew what audience it was going for this time. That was, like, the weirdest thing about the first movie, because when I went and saw it, it felt like somebody described, like Sonic to somebody else, and then they made a movie out of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
somebody like came downstairs while their kid was playing Sonic in the living room, or like, oh yeah, I got a pretty good idea how all that works, and then went off and wrote a script. and then they mostly got it right. I don't know. This movie felt a lot more like Sonic, and I guess we kind of saw that turned a lot of people off, at least reviewers. But at the same time, like, it kind of doesn't matter because it's not really for them. That's kind of like one of the biggest things I want to say. Like, it's the Sonic 2 movie isn't really like a good movie, but it's a really, really good Sonic movie. And I don't mean that disparagingly. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad movie. It's just like, it's just fine. Like, it does what it needs to.
My thoughts on it, it's like, I feel like if you do not care about Sonic, or like you're not a big fan of like movies for kids, and don't expect going into Sonic thinking you're gonna get some like deep movie or something. It's like, obviously it's like, keep in mind this is a kids movie. There's a lot of jokes. I thought it was pretty funny, and it kept me entertained the whole way through. So
I kind of agree with that, because I was reading the reviews from, critics and stuff about the movie, and a lot of them were given mixed reviews and stuff. And in my mind, especially as somebody who really isn't familiar with the Sonic franchise, aside from the films, like, in my mind, watching the second movie, you could tell, like, they made this movie for the fans. Like, it doesn't really matter what the critics say, because the movie wasn't for them. It's for the audience. And, I think that's what kind of matters, is if the people you made the movie for enjoy it, then you did a good job.
That's very good. Yes. Actually, Nix, I want to ask you, were you like lost at all with some of the references?
Were you like confused or anything, or were you able to follow it pretty okay?
So I wasn't confused at all. I mean, there were obviously some references that I didn't get until later, until they were explained to me. But for the most part, like, I've seen the characters from just, images, or I've watched other people play a little bit of the games here and there, and so I knew who Sonic is, and I knew who Tails was, and blah blah blah. But I didn't have problems, following the movie, even though I didn't understand all the references. Like, I still enjoyed it and was able to keep up, and I didn't really have any points where I was wondering, okay, I don't understand what's going on, or what does this mean? Like, it didn't really matter that much that I didn't understand everything, because that it wasn't like the main focus. And so I was able to enjoy the movie just as it was.
There wasn't a point where you were sitting there and you're like, why is this happening?
I mean, maybe a little bit, but not to the point where it was, really, sitting in my brain while I was watching it, so...
Okay, I think that's a pretty good mark for the movie then, because it's hard to like take a step back from it, just because Blur and I kind of grew up with it. I guess PK to a certain extent as well.
Yeah, I mean, I will say my knowledge is pretty much through the classic series, and then a little bit once it jumps into 3D, I start to lose track of like the story. I know a lot of the characters and kind of like bits and pieces of the story, but I couldn't recite you the storyline of Sonic Adventure 1 or 2 or Sonic Heroes even. Like, I could tell you some basic things, but that's about it. And beyond that, I couldn't tell you anything.
You've played a bit of Sonic Heroes and Sonic Adventure 2, but other than that, I can't think of any other like 3D games you've played.
I played all the way through Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh, that's
that
right.
That is the only 3D game I have completed.
Why is that the one that we beat? Because that was terrible.
We were morbidly fast. I was just playing it before, because I was showing Nix it for the first time.
Oh, it is awful. It's the dumbest thing ever.
But to not get too far off subject, so if you guys had to assign a score to the movie as a Sonic fan, what would you give it?
As a Sonic fan?
Mm-hmm. Oh, like out of 100%?
Yeah, either that or out of 10.
Okay.
So as a fan seeing the film, and I'm surprised how much they actually cater to fans, because I think most video game franchises doing movies, I think they're afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I respect, like, even though they took their own, like, they definitely changed things and made it their own, but they still also kept a lot of the original, like, lore, like how things work.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were really creative with it, and it wasn't like, oh, that's not how that works. Like, I was totally fine accepting a new version of it. Like, that this is its own thing, but it's still Sonic. I enjoyed myself, and really that's all I wanted. It's like I had a fun time, and that's all I really wanted from the movie. And I like how they did Tails and Knuckles, and that was really important to me on how they were portrayed and how they made them act. No one seems like, no matter like who does Tails, they always nail Tails' personality. And I like the changes they did to Knuckles. And they kind of brought him back to his old roots. And I really like that. So if I had to, I'd say like almost like a 9 out of 10. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of that stuff. I really like that they respected Knuckles again. like of all the things that they could have done, that was. Also, just a lot of the movie just made me laugh, just because, I knew a lot of the stuff that they were referring to.
Yeah, we were laughing a lot in the theater.
Yeah. I guess if you're not a Sonic fan, it's a little hard to explain, but I do have a way of explaining it to Nix or to other people who may watch this and think, okay, I don't get it. So, and I'll explain that in a little bit, but for me, I have to dock a point just because it's not animated. So I give it a solid 8.2.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
I think if I was going to rate it myself, I really enjoyed myself with the movie. I really liked the portrayal of the characters. I was worried that Tails would get sidelined, and in a sense you could say Tails does kind of, after his introduction, he kind of falls a little bit into the background. However, I really liked what they did with Tails when he was on screen. I would have liked to have seen him and Sonic spend a little more time together and develop their relationship maybe a little more. But when three together,
yeah, I would have liked to at least one more. If you could have maybe changed one of the other scenes, or cut out a scene that maybe didn't need to be there as much, and just added another scene of just Sonic and Tails just having a bonding moment. I think it would have been good.
I agree.
Knuckles did overshadow Tails just the tiniest bit, but what Tails did, I really liked.
I think you don't have to be worried about these characters being bastardized in terms of how they're portrayed. I think you'll be pretty safe going into it if you're just a Sonic fan. And even if you're not a Sonic fan, I think this movie's just kind of fun. Some people, I think for a lot of people who may not know Sonic characters, they may just view it as a Chipmunks movie. You know what I mean? Where it's why do I care about these characters? I don't care about their backstory.
Yeah, it's if you're not a Sonic fan, it's why are you coming to see this? Unless you're a reviewer and it's your job or you're taking your kids.
Right.
Besides that, I mean, but at the same time, I think it depends on how you view movies. Nix isn't a big Sonic fan, yet she had a fun time watching it.
Yeah, exactly. My first introduction to Sonic was going to see the first Sonic movie, and I knew nothing about the character. I knew nothing about the games or anything, and I had a great time. I thought the movie was really funny. I loved, the characters, even the human ones, and this movie, the same. I enjoyed all of the characters. I didn't know anything about what Tails was like, anything about what Knuckles was like, but I really liked the characters for what they were in the movie, at least, and makes me interested to find out more about them in their original series and stuff like that. But
okay, so just because PK mentioned the Chipmunks movie, did you see the Chipmunks movie, Nix?
So I did see the first Chipmunks movie. I went to see it in the theater with my younger siblings, and that's also another series where I didn't know anything about the Chipmunks or anything like that. And it was an okay movie. It was fine. It was cute. But it's not something I'd write home about. I never bothered to see the sequels, so.
Yeah, that's kind of my experience with like the Chipmunk movie too.
Oh,
like for me, it was like.
Sorry, it was the Squeakquels.
Oh,
the
whatever.
Squeakquels, that's right.
I couldn't actually. I forget where.
I don't even think I watched them. I just didn't have any interest in them.
Somebody was playing the first Chipmunks movie around me at some point, and I just remember it being painful.
Maybe it was one of your nephews.
I guess so. I don't know. It was just obnoxious, so I was like, I don't like this.
That's fair.
Like that. That's kind of the thing, though. Like, the Sonic movies, I didn't think were obnoxious. Yes, there were some obnoxious points, though, like in the second one. Mm-hmm. But we'll get to that later, I think. When we're in the spoiler territory.
Yeah, I'll just say, with the exception of, and I think a lot of people have brought up this scene, there is a scene kind of midway to closer to the third act, like the end of the second act, I would say, that has to do with the humans, and it takes up a significant amount of time. And it's not that the scene, in essence, like, isn't funny. I kind of think the idea behind the whole scene was funny. It was just that it went for too long. And I think if they had just shortened that sequence and just, had the joke just kind of be a quick one-off little thing that they throw in there, it would have hit better. But it goes on for too long, and
yeah,
then
I know what scene you're talking about.
All right, let's just get back to Sonic and Company, right?
Yeah, I enjoy the humans. I think they're funny, but I do agree that the one scene is like, okay, this is going on a little long. I like these characters. I think they're funny, but I do kind of want to get back to Sonic and everybody.
Exactly, yeah. That's the one thing about this film is I know they did, like, besides that one part, they really gave Sonic, Tails and Knuckles and Robotnik the spotlight, like, and I respect that they did that they had, like, the confidence to do that, and like the confidence that these characters could sell the movie and they could stand on their own as characters.
Yeah, I think it's very important that they did do that.
If I had to give it a rating, so based on a few things, I really like the portrayal of the characters. I like the emphasis on action in this movie. There is a lot of action, set pieces, and sequences, and I think they actually work pretty well for what they are, because you
totally agree. Yeah.
How well can you adapt, a character that literally just jumps on things and that's his main move? Yeah. You're surprised how cool they make it in this movie. So I really liked that. I even thought a lot of the jokes for me, a lot of it you could say is very juvenile, but I was telling this to Blur. Like, a lot of the jokes in the movie was just like stupid jokes we would write if we were working on the movie. Because we do these dumb Persona videos where we have to, like, parody stuff all the time. And there were so many moments where I was turning to another one of our friends and I was telling her, like, oh my gosh, this is something we would have written. We would have written this. Just like stupid one-liners and things like that. I'll give the movie, I think I'll give it a solid, if I'm really being honest, with the exception of the one scene going too long, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. I really
liked we gave it the same score.
I was actually, it was above my expectations, actually. Which I actually had them decently high with the trailers and everything, and I think it outperformed what I expected. So I was really happy with it, and I think the ending is actually really satisfying for a Sonic movie.
Oh, the third act was probably my favorite.
Right, that's what I think is. The third act is the strongest for specifically Sonic fans, and you'll see them dropping hints as to what, like, the sequel will probably be eventually. And if that, gets you excited for that, then you're probably really looking forward to the next one. And yeah, I'm not going to say anything else aside from that. And how about you, Nix? Let's get your score.
So I really, really enjoyed it. I'm trying hard not to give it the same score as all of you guys did, but I'm having trouble to give it any, I'm having trouble to find any reason to put it lower than a 9 out of 10, just because it genuinely was good. It was fun. Sure, there were, a couple things where I thought, well, maybe they could have changed this or slowed this down or, cut this part out a little bit, but, all in all, I don't really have very many complaints with it. I thought it was a really sweet movie. The action scenes were good. It was animated really well. All of the actors did a really great job. Of course, Jim Carrey as Robotnik was phenomenal, as he was in the first one, and I don't have any context for what the original character of Robotnik is like, so I really enjoyed it.
Robotnik's my favorite character in the series, so I've got some notes.
That's right, Okoboji's favorite Sonic character is Robotnik.
Nix, did you hand it a score?
I'm probably. Oh man, I really liked it. It was really cute.
It's okay if it's a similar score to ours.
I think I'm honestly. Aside from like my one qualm about the one scene, it went a little too long. I think I'd probably give it like a 9.5. It was really good. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I don't usually enjoy movies like that much. So. And
that's not to say like I don't think any of us think this is a perfect film.
No.
I think I'm coming at this because I'm a Sonic fan. There's certain chords it hits that resonate with me, and therefore I already have investment in these characters, and so seeing them interact, like that is something I've wanted to see now for years, ever since they teased Tails at the end of the last one. So to me, that strikes a chord, whereas I can see people who don't care about Sonic, they might have fun with the movie, but they're not going to be jumping up and down when, Tails and Sonic are doing stuff together or whatever. Or just like simple little references aren't going to get them excited. And I think it was like just little hits like that throughout the movie constantly kept me like interested in, oh, that's really cool that they're actually doing this or that or this little reference here and that. And it's not that makes the movie, but I think it's just a fun movie on its own. It's not mind-blowing. I can understand where people are coming from if they think the first one is a better movie than this one.
I can see why, that too. And this one is much faster than the first one. And if people like more slower moments, you're not going to get a lot of that in this one.
Yeah, it's very fast-paced, much more bombastic than the first. Big emphasis on action, and kind of the overarching like plot has to do with the Master Emerald. That's not really a spoiler because they show it in the trailer. So anyhow, does anybody have anything else to say before we just jump into spoilers?
All right. I'm gonna.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Nix.
No,
you go first.
Real quick, I just wanted to. I agree with PK and Blur that I wish there were a few parts where they could have slowed down a little bit, maybe established some relationships a little better here and here. But honestly, like there's only so much you can do, and they've they made the movie 2 hours long, and there's so much that they put into the movie, and so there's like you can't do everything. You can't have everything perfect. But I think with what they did, the time they had to work with, and all the characters that they had to put into the movie, I think they did a really good job, all in all, balancing everything out.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel too, Nix. That's how I feel. And just as a Sonic fan who really cares about these characters, it was nice to actually see them being, like, treated right. Like, they were all felt pretty much in character. They definitely made Sonic feel a lot younger, but I was, like, okay with that. And also, it's just so nice to see Sonic actually have, like, some, like... Sega does this weird thing with Sonic in the games where Sonic's kind of not allowed to change. He's allowed to change other characters. Like, he can affect other characters and have them grow, but Sonic, like, as a character, is never really allowed to grow himself.
Huh, that's interesting.
They have a specific, and it's just an image thing. It's like a licensing thing, too. They have an image they want Sonic to keep, and they don't want people to break that. But for the movie, I think they were able to pull some strings, so I kind of like that. This goes for the first one, too, the first movie, too. How they allowed Sonic to have some growth and to feel some emotions and to him actually have like some tiny character flaws. I appreciate that and like have that like affect him.
I think that's something that really drew me to the character as well, especially having no, prior context to any of these characters. I really like that's what I like about Sonic's character in the movies, is that he does, grow and he has a lot of character development, especially if you look at, the beginning of the first movie and then watch that in the second movie. Like, I don't know, I think they did a really good job, but I have no prior context for what his character was before.
Oh, and this, I think before we go on to spoiler territory, I'm like bursting to say this, so
sorry.
We should, I think, go over just a little bit of like how weird of a thing Sonic is. like the whole thing. It's so bizarre. And I thought about this morning, and it kind of made me chuckle. So, the Powerpuff Girls?
Yeah.
Where, it's like the intro scene, it's like, Professor X is like, cooking the pot and stuff like that.
Oh, you mean Professor Newtonium?
Yeah. So like he's combining the ingredients and stuff. So like just imagine it's Professor Sega and he's like, Michael Jackson, Mario, a pinball machine. These were the ingredients chosen to create the perfect pop culture icon. But Professor Sega accidentally added a different ingredient, and it's like the fandom.
Yeah.
And then like just Sonic came out. Yeah.
Furries out.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to put furries in.
I don't know. It's
amazing.
just there's just such a weird history behind like Sonic's just being. To be honest,
like everything in Sonic kind of has a weird kind of, or like Robotnik was supposed to be based on Teddy Roosevelt, right?
What?
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
And he was supposed to wear like pajamas or something.
Yeah, don't even get me started on like the original production Bible. Sorry,
I
Blur read it to me. And
I did this voice line reading. I was doing stupid voices for it too because it was cracking me up. The original production Bible is hilarious.
Well, I think you're right too, Okoboji, because when you think about like what the project is in general and adapting that to film and putting it on Earth, I kind of appreciate that they just say, yeah, they're just aliens. Like, yes, he's a hedgehog, yes, he's an echidna, yes, he's a fox, but at the same time, they're aliens, and it's just kind of like, okay, all's forgiven, or you can just be like, okay, it's weird because they're aliens.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because in the games, they never explain it. The most who gets the most explanation is Knuckles. Like about who he is, where he comes from. Sonic, you know nothing. You don't know anything about Sonic's past.
It was just Blur. It was just like recently where Sega came out and said, "Oh yeah, they like explained like a tiny bit more about
a tiny bit in this little Tales podcast," and they're like, "Okay, this is how it works. Why there's humans in some game and not any in others. It's like humans live on the big continents, so think like our planet. Like humans populate the continents, and the animal characters populate islands."
Oh, weird.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to get too much off on a tangent, but I think it's important to appreciate, like, take a step back, like, understand that, like, the whole Sonic, like, thingiverse or whatever is just insane.
Yeah,
and
it's got
crazy. There's no cohesion. There's like barely any direction. A lot of Sega's like advents for Sonic were kind of like mistakes. A lot of the times, like flipping Sega almost went bankrupt at like one point, and they had to go to Daddy Sammy to bail them out. That was the other thing about the movie. Like right at the beginning, I think Sammy was kind of flexing their muscles on Sega a little bit because like the Sega logo comes up and underneath it says a Sammy company. It says like, so it's like, I don't know, like going back to the Professor Sega analogy, like, Sonic pops out of the pot and like some of the Sonami like fan fictions start popping out of him too. And it's like Professor Sega's like, oh my gosh, I gotta grab the shotgun. He like pulls the shotgun out of the closet. And then he like pulls the trigger and like his arms are blown off of him because the shotgun explodes. and then Professor Sega has to go like to the Sammy hospital and ask him real nicely to put his arms back on his torso for him. Like that's like that.
And then all of a sudden something happens where now Professor Sega, he's just not as good as making Sonic stuff anymore because he doesn't have full control of his arms, and so the stuff he makes is kind of weird now and unpredictable, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not great.
And sometimes his arms write contracts to Paramount without him like reviewing what he wrote down, and so they turn Sonic into a horrible gremlin thing, and the fandom has to shout at Paramount to get it fixed.
And they did fix it, which just says miles, honestly.
I know it does. It really does. I think
that actually got a lot, because that got a lot of backlash actually with like non-Sonic fans, like movie critics and stuff. They got really mad about that. They thought the fans were being entitled. They were like, you guys are, I mean, to an extent, I'm sure it was. But it wasn't just fans saying it was ugly. It was like everyone. Everyone thought it was ugly. There were very few hardcore Sonic fans who I saw who were like, I actually like the original design better. And I don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it.
As a non-Sonic fan, especially at that point, like, I knew nothing about Sonic. When I first saw those images, I wanted to throw up. It was, and sometimes I still see them every so often, them comparing how I looked originally to how they changed them, and honestly, it's kind of the stuff of nightmare fuel. I would not have gone to see that movie if that's still what he looked like. That's terrifying. I would not see Mike, if I had kids, I wouldn't let them go see that. That's scary looking. And so I think that good for them on changing it, because I think that kind of changed the entire thing. I don't think people would have liked it as much if they hadn't.
Thanks so much, guys, for listening to part 1. This was the non-spoiler discussion, and part 2 I will be posting soon after this, so keep an eye out for that, where we will be going into our spoiler thoughts.